There's a nice trout down there too, and it's feeding in a really tight pocket. It's going to be tough, we'll give it a go. And talk about fishing in people's backyards. There's the school caretaker mowing the lawn just on the other side of the creek. And the trout continues to feed. What I'm going to have to do is just cross the creek here and then just try to put a cast in up there. But again, I'm going to have about 1 metre of strike zone. We'll give it a go. Mostly, these brown trout live tight in the shadows of the undercut banks associated with the pools and runs. You need to be wary and cautious, as often they'll be right at your feet. That's how it happens. It was really tough. He was just parked right in here. Really needed him out in the shadows up here so we can get a cast in on him, but the creeks and streams of the Mount Dandenong Ranges flow down the mountain to the south, north and east of the slopes. There are over a dozen different creeks in the ranges and over 100 kilometres of fishable water. Much of the better fishing is actually outside of the national park and often very close to suburbia. This dam is very, very important. Situated right at the top of the mountain range, it's the source for the 3 main creeks that run through the Dandenong Ranges. The Momboll Creek, the Warriallic Creek, and of course, most importantly, the Olinda Creek. So let's move on and start to go down the mountain and see what we can find. The history of the source of the brown trout in these creeks goes all the way back to the establishment of the Snobs Creek Hatchery at Eildon in 1946, when they were stocked in the 1950s and the early 1960s. But since then, there has been no replenishment of the stocks, and now they are considered to be wild and self-sustaining. So this is the Olinda Falls on the Olinda Creek, well up the top, and I don't think there's going to be too many trout upstream of these falls. I don't think they can get past that. So I'm going to concentrate on having a look at what I can find in the lower reaches of the Olinda Creek. This pool here is typical of what you're looking for in these creeks. There's not a lot of them, but that's where the trout will be. There's long stretches of shallow runs, so what you've got to do is just hop from pool to pool, find the pool. I'm pretty lucky because I dropped right in on one now, so go and have a bit of a look and see if we can't find something in there. Yep, that's a good pool. Got him. And that is typical of what you're going to get in these little creeks. I'll just swing this guy up here. What a beautiful little wild brown trout. That's, oh, we've got to watch out. This is very easy to get these super sharp hooks in me. Only a tiny little brown trout, but he absolutely slammed that little minnow. Had a couple of goes at it. Look at this red on it. Typical wild brown trout. In this creek, probably just over 18 months old and just absolutely lovely. Awesome. So let's get this hook out and let him back into the water to grow to fight another day. You can see some of the terrain you've got to contend with when you're fishing these waters. 90% of it's like this. Closed in, small, overgrown. There's no question that trout are living there, but as to whether you can get an effective cast into them, better off just to move on, find the pools and the runs and fish those. There's a nice trout down there too, and it's feeding in a really tight pocket. It's going to be tough, we'll give it a go. And talk about fishing in people's backyards. There's the school caretaker mowing the lawn just on the other side of the creek. And the trout continues to feed. What I'm going to have to do is just cross the creek here and then just try to put a cast in up there. But again, I'm going to have about 1 metre of strike zone. We'll give it a go. Mostly, these brown trout live tight in the shadows of the undercut banks associated with the pools and runs. You need to be wary and cautious, as often they'll be right at your feet. That's how it happens. It was really tough. He was just parked right in here. Really needed him out out in the shadows up here so we can get a cast in on him. But one very good indicator of a healthy waterway is a vibrant and healthy fish population. And I can only say that these creeks are indeed very clean, clear and very healthy. But they will always fish best a few days or more after a good rain. The discoloured water encourages a trout to venture out into mid-water and feed much more actively. This is a nice little pool, and I can even see some of the neighbours here wondering what I'm doing. Well, with a bit of luck, might be able to find one of these little trouts. A nice pool, this one. There should be a trout in there. Just a matter of looking and seeing. Oh yeah, nice one. Got him. Hey? Woohoo! Hey, do you like that? And even the neighbours over here helped me. They polarised it for me, so good one. I'll just get down here in the water, see how muddy it is. Ooh, it's very muddy. Look at the colours of that fish. He's actually been hit by a cormorant in his earlier life. You can see that, his gill plates are knocked back, and that's a typical cormorant bite. But look at the colours on that little fish. Wild brown trout, haven't been stocked since the 50s or 60s. And typical of the sort of fish that you can get in these Dandenong Ranges creeks. I'll let this guy go. He's had a hard enough life as it is without me hassling him. There he goes. Sort of tackle that's ideal for fishing these little creeks is short. Just a light spin rod, 1 to 3 kilo, threadline reel. And in this case, even though all the rage now is gel spun lines, I've just gone back to fishing 4-pound mono all the way through to the lure. Ideal for this sort of water. Look at that. Did you see that? Another good trout. It just ran out of water. He's back under the bank now, and I don't reckon he'll come out again for anything. There are quite a number of access points along the myriad of road bridges over these creeks, and often you'll find some of the best pulls and runs are actually just up or downstream of the bridge. Oh yes, you beauty. What is that? Oh, what a fish. That is an absolute cracker. And I'm in a bit of strife here. Have a look at that fish. Little suburban creek, Olinda Creek. What a absolute cracker. Wild brown trout that is. And as luck would have it, I have left the net in the car, but not to worry. I reckon I'll put one of my gloves on here. I'm gonna have to work him up to those rocks. Now the problem will be light line and a fair bit of excitement. I've just got to get this across. Come on, over you go. That's the way. Oh, sorry about the nettle, but that's got to go. Oh yes. Gotcha. Lovely fish for a little creek. Beautiful, beautiful wild brown trout from a suburban creek, the Olinda Creek. These sun gloves are great too for hanging on to fish. Really, really good. Means you can hold on to them. They're not going to slip. You're not going to damage your fish. But again, what a trout. All I ask, treat these little suburban creeks with respect, and most importantly, treat these trout with respect. They've been here for 100 years, these browns. Rainbow trout are stocked in the Lilydale Lake down below, but very few of them get up into the creeks. But these browns, they're all wild. They were stocked by our forefathers years and years and years ago, and they have just existed in these mountain creeks for decades and decades and decades. So treat these guys with respect, don't overfish, let them go, and most importantly, limit your catch. There we go. What a fish, and what a day, and what a creek. The creeks and streams of the Mount Dandenong Ranges are indeed one of Melbourne's fishing gems, but they are fragile, and we all need to treat them with respect. Let's look after them and hand them over to the next generation of anglers in better shape than ever.